Welcome to the Cardboard Dungeons review of the Upsilon-Class Shuttle expansion for X-Wing. This ship is the transport of choice for Kylo Ren in The Force Awakens. I really like the look of this shuttle. It reminds me of a giant metal bat. If Batman existed in the Star Wars universe, he'd be flying around in this thing. Also, I would be first in line to see that movie. The wingspan is impressively large, and they do fold up into landing position, which is nice during gameplay to get them out of the way of other nearby ships. Let's take a look at maneuver options, which are pretty much what you'd expect for a shuttle. It's got the speed 0 full stop, which is red, and it tops out at speed 3. It does have all of the normal maneuvers at speeds 1 through 3, although it doesn't turn easily, with the speed 1 and speed 3 turns also being red. There's not much green in the dial, and it has no quick way to turn around. Not a great dial, but it is better than the Lambda-class shuttle dial, which doesn't have speed 1 or speed 3 turns at all. Looking at the stat line, we've got an attack value of 4 with a standard firing arc. This is the third ship in the game, excluding huge ships, with 4 attack dice. With this maneuver dial, it can be difficult to get shots on more nimble ships, but when it does line up an attack, it can hit hard. Rounding out the stats are an agility value of 1, 6 hull, and 6 shields. On the action bar, it's got focus, target lock, and coordinate. Coordinate originated in the epic format as an action that was exclusive to huge ships, but now it's available in standard play as well. It lets you spend an action to allow a friendly ship at range 1 or 2 to perform a free action. It's incredibly good and adds a great deal of flexibility to your squadron. On the upgrade bar, the Upsilon has 1 system slot, 2 crew slots, and 2 tech slots. This gives it an incredible amount of customization options, and the double crew slots means that the Imperials now have a third way to bring Palpatine onto the board, although I think that there are better crew options for this ship. The top pilot for the Upsilon is Kylo Ren, who has a pilot skill of 6 and costs 34 points. He's the only pilot for this ship who can equip an elite upgrade. His ability reads, the first time you're hit by an attack each round, assign the I'll show you the dark side condition to the attacker. That condition card has a giant wall of text on it, and I'm not going to read it verbatim, so pause the video if you want to do that. Basically, it lets you search through your opponent's damage deck and choose a card with the pilot trait. Then, if the affected ship suffers critical damage from an attack, it gets dealt that card instead of following the normal process for taking damage. This means that even if the critical hit would have resulted in the target only losing a shield, it gets dealt the chosen critical damage directly to its hull instead. The go-to damage cards for this condition are Damaged Cockpit, which reduces pilot skill to 0 for the rest of the match, and Blinded Pilot, which forces the affected ship to skip its next opportunity to attack. There are 2 copies of each of these in both damage decks, and both of them are brutal, especially Damaged Cockpit against enemy aces who rely on their high pilot skill to dodge firing arcs. However, as good as this condition is, Kylo's pilot ability isn't a great way to apply it. First, it requires that you take damage in order to trigger, and second, which enemy ship it affects and when is entirely up to your opponent. Luckily, there's another, better way to use this condition included in this expansion that we'll talk about a little later. The next pilot for the Upsilon is Major Stridon. He has a pilot skill of 4 and costs 32 points. His ability reads, for the purposes of your actions and upgrade cards, you may treat friendly ships at range 2 to 3 as being at range 1. I really like this ability. Right away, it extends the effective range of the coordinate action out to range 3, but there are also a whole bunch of upgrades that affect friendly ships at limited ranges, and it affects all of them. Essentially, if you want to build an Upsilon shuttle as a support ship for the rest of your squadron, Major Stridon is your pilot of choice. Lieutenant Dormitz has a pilot skill of 3 and costs 31 points. His ability is used during setup, and it lets you place friendly ships anywhere in the play area at range 1 or 2 of his ship. It's an interesting ability that lets you start the match with friendly ships much further forward than normal. Finally, Starkiller Base Pilot has a pilot skill of 2 and costs 30 points. Now moving on to upgrades, you get 2 copies of Snapshot, which is also included in the Heroes of the Resistance expansion. It's a 2-point elite upgrade, which lets you make an unmodifiable range 1 attack with 2 dice against an enemy ship immediately after it executes a maneuver. You can only make 1 snapshot per round. This is a neat card because it's a free attack, and since it triggers before the enemy ship takes an action, it means your opponents usually won't benefit from focus or evade tokens when defending. There are, of course, a number of pilot abilities and upgrades that allow actions to be taken before executing maneuvers, so this won't always be the case. And Snapshot also can't be modified, but the chance for free damage is never a bad thing. Next, we've got General Hux, an Imperial-only crew with a cost of 5 points. Hux lets you use an action to assign a focus token to up to 3 friendly ships at range 1 to 2. Assign the fanatical devotion condition to one of them, and then receive a stress token. Okay, sit back because there's a lot to unpack here. First, the action efficiency here is crazy good. You're spending 1 action to get the equivalent of 3 focus actions for up to 3 of your ships. Because of the way it's worded, you can also give a focus token to the ship that Hux is on. Now let's look at the condition that must be applied to one ship. Fanatical Devotion starts with a pretty heavy downside. When defending, you cannot spend focus tokens. But then it goes on to say that when you attack, if you spend a focus token, you can set aside the first affected die, and that hit can't be canceled by defense dice. So basically, for the penalty of not being able to focus your own defense dice, you get to potentially focus an attack into an unblockable hit. Even better, if you put Hux on a decimator, the penalty basically goes away entirely, since unless you're defending against a range 3 or obstructed attack, you're not rolling any defense dice anyway. Hux is an amazing support card, and if he's on Major Stridon's Upsilon Shuttle, he'll affect friendly ships at range 3 as well. Next, we've got the crew version of Kylo Ren. He's Imperial only and costs 3 points. He lets you spend an action to apply the I'll show you the dark side condition to any enemy ship at range 1 to 3. This is the method of delivery for this condition that I was talking about earlier. It's so much better than the pilot version of Kylo Ren because you get to choose which ship gets it and when instead of your opponent. With either version, though, Kylo's ability benefits greatly from having a way to generate hits. The Empire has several good options. Rear Admiral Kiranu's Decimator is a good fit here, since his ability makes getting crits easier. A TIE Advanced with Advanced Targeting Computer or Palpatine are also good options for guaranteed crits. All it takes is 1 uncancelled crit to put a key enemy ship into a world of hurt. As much as I dislike conditions in general, I have to admit this one is excellent. Next up are 2 copies of a new crew. Operations Specialist is limited and costs 3 points. Limited means that you can't include more than 1 copy on the same ship. When a friendly ship at range 1 or 2 performs an attack that doesn't hit, you can assign a focus token to another friendly ship at range 1 to 3 of that ship. I feel like 3 points is a bit much for what this card does, especially since in order for it to trigger, you need to miss with an attack. It might have some application or combo that I'm missing, but my thought is that for an additional 2 points, I'd rather have General Hux, who can hand out focus to 3 different ships whenever I want. Hyperwave Comm Scanner is a tech upgrade that costs 1 point. It's also available in the Quad Jumper expansion. There are 2 copies included here. It lets you treat your ship as having a pilot skill of 0, 6, or 12 during setup, which means you can basically decide whether you want to place it first, last, or somewhere in the middle based on your opponent's squadron build. Additionally, during setup, when you place a friendly ship at range 1 or 2, you can assign a focus or evade token to that ship. I think that combined with Dormitz and his ability, you could create some potent first strike opportunities here, letting ordnance carriers begin the game further up the board and with focus, and then move, target lock, and fire fully modified missiles on turn 1. But that's a best case scenario. Savvy opponents are going to look at your build and deploy in a way that denies such an alpha strike, and then you've wasted points on one-time use setup abilities. Targeting Synchronizer is a new tech upgrade with a cost of 3 points. There are 2 copies in this expansion. When a friendly ship at range 1 or 2 is attacking a ship that you have target locked, it treats the attack target lock header as not requiring a target lock. Additionally, If a game effect requires that ship to spend a target lock, it can spend your target lock instead. Basically, friendly ships within range can launch ordnance requiring target locks using your target lock instead. One of the biggest issues with ordnance is having the action economy to get optimal results out of them. In most cases, this means having both target lock and focus to give you the best chance to get maximum hits from the attack. Targeting synchronizer potentially lets multiple friendly ships launch missiles without the need for them to have taken the target lock action, thus freeing them to take focus actions and maximize their hits. Or, it could let one ship fire ordnance that requires spending a target lock, keep its own target lock to modify the dice results, and spend yours instead. It's a good card, but you need to really build your squadron around it in order to take advantage of the ability. Ion Projector is a 2-point large ship only modification that we've seen before in the Houndstooth expansion. If an enemy ship bumps you, it rolls 1 attack die and takes an ion token on a hit or crit result. Large ships, especially those with the Speed 0 maneuver, make excellent blockers, and this upgrade gives you the chance to further cripple any enemy ship that runs into you. Finally, we've got a unique title for the Upsilon-Class Shuttle. Kylo Ren's shuttle costs 2 points and lets you choose an enemy ship at range 1 or 2 at the end of the combat phase. Your opponent must assign a stress token to either that ship or another friendly ship at range 1 or 2. It's a solid title that will pay for itself over the course of a match. Okay, that's the Upsilon-Class Shuttle expansion for X-Wing. I think it's a great addition to the game, giving the Imperials a ship with a ton of flexibility and upgrade options. It can carry Palpatine, or maybe Kylo Ren and his idol Darth Vader if you want a more offense-oriented build. Systems Officer and Fleet Officer, or General Hux on board Major Striden's shuttle, turns it into the ultimate support vehicle, handing out target locks and focus tokens to its wingmates all the way out to range 3. And no matter how you build it, the high attack value means that whatever role it might play in a squadron, any ship foolish enough to land in its sights might suffer some serious damage. Throw in that coordinate action and the Upsilon shuttle is a powerful centerpiece to any Imperial squadron. As always, thank you for watching the Cardboard Dungeons X-Wing ship reviews. See you next time.